morning. Welcome back to the live stream here, BD Live. I'm Mike Brightman. I'm going to be working through some real projects. Hopefully you guys have got a few people watching out there, at least watching live. I'm going to be working through real projects here. That's the idea behind these live streams, is just gives me a chance to not prepare, just hit go and start working and kind of see where it goes, see what extensions we come across, what kind of problems we run into, and solve them on the fly. Kind of excited today. I do have a new version of our ConDoc tools, which is pretty cool. It's not quite ready. Steven, what's happening? Glad you're back. It's almost ready. We just have one icon that's out of place, but we're going to be goofing with that today. And that's about it. So let's just hop right in and take a look at what we've got going on here. We've got our BD Live number 7. And I copied our project files over. So in SketchUp, I'm just going to go to File, Open, Brightman Designs, under Content, BD Live number 7. And here's our project files. And I actually have to remind myself of where we ended up. So on the last session, we can close that out. I'll save this thumbnail 007 like that. And then we're going to go to File, Open, and here's our project files. So I believe that where we left off on that last session was we were drafting out all of our proposed conditions inside of layout. And so where we ended up there, if I look at my layers, we kind of broke it apart with our dashed lines showing through as demolished. And then our proposed walls are kind of in that heavier black. And then we have some other drawings in here, like a demolition plan, a more traditional demolition plan where dashed lines showing or dashed lines show what's getting removed, existing walls in black, and then the original existing condition. So this is where I start. I always trace the existing conditions, and then you can start to pull together, your demolition plan based on a sketch, and then you can duplicate that page and move on to your proposed conditions. All right, so that's what we're looking at. That's where we kind of left off. And let's take a brief look at our SketchUp model like that. And this is kind of where we're at here. So I guess my question today is, what always the question is, what am I going to work on here? So, technically there's a little bit of work to do on the existing conditions model. So I think that would probably be a decent place to start. We're still, calling this model existing conditions. So, and we used our flex tools. I'm going to load our labs architect flex tools drawing set, because that's the drawing set that responds to our flex tools tags. So in here now you have all these flex stairs and flex tools, 2D elevation, all that. All right, but we're not quite ready to hone in on that. And so I think what I'll do, I'm going to start by just sorting out our existing conditions model and clean up some of this stuff going on here. We've got this area here, and get the walls to kind of close. And let me see, do we have a ceiling on this model? Ceilings are turned off, so that's okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to go through, add some textures, and just kind of whip this into shape first. So today we'll get our existing conditions knocked out, and then in layout we're going to take a look at let me look at our actual drawing. So if I go to this mid-century modern edition, we have our layout file. And this is I'll probably just export one of these. This just gives you an idea of where, this is the drawing that I actually created during these live streams. And this is the actual project file Again, I wouldn't normally dimension it like this, but the client asked me to provide those. So we're going to export this as a PDF, import it into SketchUp, and see where that gets us. All right, so let's get to work. First thing we need to do is start cleaning up this existing conditions model. So I'm just going to like start pushing and pulling. This guy needs to come up to this point right here. And see how I'm not getting a snap? What you can do is like throw a guideline there, and then I should be able to like pull this up and then snap to that point. I might tap the line tool, L for line tool. If I hold shift, I can constrain on plane. So now I'm locked in on this plane, and then I can like put my cursor on this edge and click, you know, so that's like kind of a slick way to plot those points and draw in that shape right there. And then I'll like, let's use our 3D mouse just a little bit, and then I'll push and pull. So P is my keyboard shortcut like that. And then perhaps I would just erase that and erase that. All right, so there's like, you know, kind of half of it like that. That looks pretty decent. And then this other side, I'm not really concerned about this other side, so I don't know that I'd go to great lengths to clean this up. Remember, this model came straight from Canvas. And so I'm much more concerned about what's going on in this bedroom than I am what's going on over here. So I think I'd be inclined just to, I guess I'll like push the ceiling in and get our walls to kind of come up like this. So again, I'm going to use my tape measure tool to plot that point and then pull this up. And when I have that grid line there, I can snap to that intersection point like that. All right, and then I suppose same deal. I can draw a line up to here, plot that point. Control H is my keyboard shortcut for hide rest a model, and then I can like pull this through like that, and then we'll use our eraser tool and clean this up. And I would assume that I need this stuff cleaned up too. I could probably hit all this like in one shot and then just get rid of it like that, and like that. All right, and then we'll clean this up as well. And while I'm in the process of doing this, I might even just like hide this. See, there's always these little edges kind of floating around. You got to be careful you're not erasing anything behind. There's some edges right here as well, like that. So then I can unhide, back out of there, and, you know, Control E is how I can delete my guides. So Control E gets rid of everything all in one shot. All right, so that looks pretty decent. I'm going to go to all elements on and just take another look. I kind of have to remind myself where I'm at, because I actually did some work on this project over the past week. And so I'm kind of like, I'm used to looking at that model, and now I'm realizing, you know, like where we're at on this one. So anyways, we don't have like the patio and stuff all in there, but it's kind of interesting, like that placemaker update brought in, I mean, it's very recent, you know, like they literally just built this patio, like at the end of the summer, I think it was. So anyways, what we were talking about is, you know, how much yard they're going to have, and there's some concerns about how far out they're coming, but drawing's already kind of done. I think it's just a last minute like hesitation, but so we're going to submit again. All right, so that looks pretty good. And if I go over to my project files, let's see, I think it's under content and wagon trail media. And let's just, I like going back to the drone footage. That seems to be pretty decent, kind of easier to understand what's going on here. So you can see that like all the, you know, all the windows, all the trim is kind of a dark gray. So let's get that in there. And our shingles, I don't even know what you call that, but kind of standard issue shingles, standard issue brick in my opinion. So we'll just drill into our walls. I'm going to, I'll leave those behind for now. Go to my materials. And for now, I'm just going to like throw this brick on there. I don't like SketchUp's materials, and I'm sure that I was griping about this previously. I really do think that they could come up with some better materials, and maybe that's on me, with architectures and all that. But for now, I'm just going to throw this brick in there, and then we'll kind of like easily swap it out later, when I kind of get around to making a cleaner texture. All right, so we'll kind of do that for now, and then let's check again on here. So I'm going to pause this. Okay, so like the brick, existing condition wise, all the windows are going to be like a dark gray, and then this is kind of a dark gray over here. So it looks like it's about 30 inches up. The windows essentially sit on that brick ledge. So I'm going to make a copy of this up to here, and then I'm going to paint. This is like a siding, and I believe we do have like kind of a generic siding in here. I can right click and go to texture, position, right click, rotate 90, and then hit enter. And then I can edit that as well, and maybe knock that down to like 24 inches, and then make it kind of a really dark gray, and colorize that as well, like that. All right, so that looks pretty good. And then I guess as I'm going around, I could draw a line like that, and then I can sample this and then paint. When you edit the texture image like that, texture, edit the position, well, now you can like sample that orientation. So as I'm going through here, I see. I think I had my ceilings turned off. Let's keep cleaning this up as we go. I'll push this back like that, and I'm gonna push this back as well. And you can see I got kind of a goofy little edge there. So perhaps what would be the best way to solve that? Let's hide rest a model, and what do we got going on here? I think I like. Oh no, we're good. So here's a good way to solve that. I can use my. I'm going to use my move tool, and I'm going to move this on the blue straight up and snap to that surface. And then I'm going to double click, group, and delete. And the reason I group it, is because if I were to like delete this, I need that edge left in there. All right, and so I can just group it and delete it, and it's going to leave behind whatever I need to kind of keep those edges. It like leaves any shared edges behind. Maybe that's the best way to state it, like that. All right, so now this is kind of pushed back, and then, and again, like this is not the area of the house that's like really critical for what we're working on, but I do want just a little bit more to be updated here. I'm going to hide rest of model, and I guess really what I need is for this connection here, and then this connection here, like that, and like that, and then cleaning it up as I go, like that. And then on the outside, we don't need that stuff. And again, I always hide because there's always these little edges kind of floating around still. Let me undo. I'm going to hide this. I might have erased it on accident. Like that, and then unhide. All right, Control E clears those guides. And so now that looks pretty decent. I'm going to add a texture. I'm going to go to the plus sign here. We're going to add it. We're not going to use a texture image. So this will just be like our trim color. And so now, I can just kind of paint the windows. Although these, I see. These are not the Flex Tools windows. I left those alone. So let's try painting these. See, the Flex Tools windows are kind of nice. They're properly modeled. Again, if I had a gripe for Canvas, if I had to offer any advice, it'd be like, just use windows that are like the Flex Tools windows or like the ConDoc, the ConDoc doors and windows. They have 2D graphics baked in. I mean, that would really be a massive upgrade if they just kind of use that. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. All right. So let's see. We'll just kind of work through a few more of these. Typically, I would only assign I would only assign a material to a surface. That's kind of best practices, but you see, what I did here, these Flex Tools windows are, all the surfaces are on the default material. So that's why they show up the way they do when I paint the outside. So basically, whenever you have a surface in here and it has the default material assigned to it, it's going to inherit whatever texture is assigned to the outside. Best practices in SketchUp is to drill in and only assign textures to a surface, but I know that this is going to work out okay for me. All right, so let's isolate. Where you would run into some problems is if you paint a texture that has a texture image associated with it. If you did that, you would end up with some problems because you wouldn't be able to like orient the texture properly and all that. So that's kind of the big idea there. All right. And yeah, I'm just kind of keeping an eye on the chat panel, and we got 6 concurrent viewers. I got to tell you too, I didn't announce today just because I was kind of like, I don't know, like the whole point is just to just hit go and see what we run into. So I'm glad to have you guys here and 6 folks watching live, and it seems like these live streams are landing well for the most part. I think just to share a little bit with you that probably in the future I'll do every other week, but I really like staying fresh with presenting like this, and especially leading up to base camp. It's nice to get used to talking to people and being on the fly here on the spot. So with these, I'm going to drill in, and you can see that like all these are on these have the default texture assigned to them. And why would this see, this is kind of goofy. Like the canvas model has the glass, which you don't need the glass separate from the windows, in my opinion. And it's kind of strange that they assigned the material to the outside. Just not best practices. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this whole group of windows and explode it like that. And now when you explode, when there is a material assigned to the outside of a group, and the faces or the surfaces on the inside have the default material, well, when you explode it, now those faces inherit that material, which can cause some confusion. But now I'm going to group this, and then I could like double click in, and with my paint bucket tool tap shift and then just click one time, and now I've assigned the material to the surface. All right, so that's kind of like best practices there. This is a let me hit reset. All right, this is a door. All right, so I'm just going to select both of those, group them, and then hide rest to model, and all this I'm going to blow it up, and then I'm going to tap shift again with my paint bucket tool. When you tap shift, it kind of does like a material swap. I can tap I. Oh, I might have messed up my well, let's check my keyboard shortcuts for isolating. I'm always like installing and reinstalling, so let me check my preferences shortcuts and go with isolate. So tag isolate, we're gonna use I. That's what I use. Oh, yeah. Yep, this makes sense. I was testing these and I had it on like a different plugin, which I shouldn't have anymore. So let me see. Do we have ConDoc Express tools? Yeah. So now I can hit I and isolate my windows. Same thing as like pushing this button. Yeah, this is the only thing that's left over is this one icon here. I need it to be this icon, which brings up our tags dialog. So there must have been some confusion just getting that icon in there. But anyways, this is the newest version, 5.3. We're gonna launch this any second now. Honestly, once I get that tag swapped, we should be in good shape. But just kind of buttoned up some of the icons, and then for the Express Tools toolbar, I don't know if you guys have an opinion or if you guys use ConDoc tools, but previously we only had the element tag and element freeze and isolate. Well, I added buttons for the ConDoc system. So system, tags, and then we have these other tools because they're kind of all encompassing regarding like tags and automating tag states. So we're lumping these all together as our Express tools. And then the new tools we have are isolate active section planes, which that comes in super handy. I mean, I used that just the other day. It's a great new tool to have. And then purge unused section planes, which is pretty slick. All right, so back to our task at hand, though. I'm just going to, like, group this. I'll just kind of group each one of these individually. And, you know, like I said, this is not an important part of our model. And if I just tap X, I can explode all this. Control T is my keyboard shortcut to deselect. And with the paint bucket tool, I tap Shift. And then when I click, that's going to paint. What is it? Shift is paint all matching. It's essentially like a swap within this group. I can select this stuff, group it, double click in, explode everything, Control T, paint bucket tool, Shift, get those done like that. Select all, explode, Shift like that. So at least this way, you know, if I were to make a rendering of this project, it's going to be, you know, looking at this area of the house. And so I just want this stuff to show up properly. That's all. It doesn't need to be show up in the plans. I'm actually, as a matter of fact, I'm just going to like really isolate this one area and not show anything else over there. All right. So I'll drill in here and hide rest the model. And then with my paint bucket tool, I can tap Alt and sample this brick. And now, you know, I might just go through and like, you know, paint this stuff. And let's see if we can find a more clever way to do this. I wonder if I were to like, you know, what I really want to do is just select each one of these, kind of hold Control to add to my selection. And I'm going to add each one of these openings like this. And as I go through like this, and you know, I'm not going to get greedy because I don't want to lose my selection. And I'm going to watch this. This is going to be slick. All right. So now I'm going to use with my paint bucket tool. That's going to paint everything that's selected like that. So see how it got all those selections, but I didn't want to get this stuff. See, I made a mistake. Well, now I'm going to go back to my select tool and remove these pieces from the selection. And then I'm going to go back and I need to find the, well, here's our, this window is painted the right material. I'm going to sample that. So see, now that material's live. Hide rest to model. I have my selection. And then I can paint those pieces like that. All right, and then, you know, like I said, I didn't want to get greedy here. We'll just do those manually. Undo that, and like that. All right, and then as far as the roof goes, this is kind of easy. You could do your shingles first. So perhaps I'd just hop over here and go with like our roofing. And I honestly, this one really looked pretty darn close. Let's bring up, well, I'll go to texture, position, reset. That's weird. That really comes up in a goofy way, doesn't it? Let's get this rotated. I'm surprised it didn't, like it didn't, if I click to pick it up, this is going to get interesting here. Why isn't that, I should be able to go to texture, position, rotate 90, hit enter, but yeah, there's something goofy going on. Let me try this. And I'm sure that this has to do with our axes, all right? Because I updated our axes, and these are different from the origin. I have a feeling that it's got something to do with that. So I'm going to hit reset, and we're going to jump in here, and we're going to show our axes, which is our like sketching context. Let's just pick a different material. I mean, that looks right. Texture, position. I don't know if I've ever seen this. It feels like a bug, but I'm sure it's not. And then rotate 90, enter, and now it sticks. You know, see, it was looking like it should here. Let's cheat. Let's do this. I'm gonna go over here because I just don't feel like dealing with it. This is like common, right? Let's just open it in Photoshop and go to image, rotate, what is it? Oh man, image rotation 90, and then save it, and then hop in here. That looks better. So I don't know, truth be told, that's probably a better way to rotate that image. I mean, if you like use that texture position, now you're kind of reliant on that texture position function, and it's different than the actual default. So I don't know. I've never seen that. I've never seen where the orientation was all goofy. I'm not gonna fully blame that on a bug. I think that it has something to do with the orientation. I'll bet it has something to do with the orientation of the axes. I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that this roof is kind of a funny shape, like this little angle. I wonder if it's like playing off that somehow. Let's do this. Let's test it. So if I get back in here and I go back to that original one, all right, and then right click, texture, position, and see it's all goofy. All right, and what I'm getting at is that like this roof is a funny angle, like this thing shoots out. Now, if I draw a rectangle and I hover on this surface and hold shift, and it's gonna, now I'm locked on that plane. So now I just drew, a rectangle, and this rectangle has these nice clean edges, right? Well, what happens if I paint that and go to texture, position? Still out of whack. So, and then if I right click, rotate 90, that doesn't help. And if I go to texture, reset position, and go to right click, texture, position, and then I guess what I want to do is like rotate it, but I don't want to eyeball it. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what these tools do. I guess it doesn't matter, but I like to know that it's like perfectly aligned, to be honest. Anyway, all right, well, I showed you the fix I would do, which is this guy. And if I look, let's try and get back to that. See, it's this one right there. And then I can like purge unused and kind of clean that up. And we'll do that. All right, so now we've got our shingles. That's pretty straightforward there. And now what I need are the trim pieces here. All right, so I can hide rest a model, and I want to do another clever selection, right? So what I could do is like triple click to select all connected geometry, and then just do Control and Shift like that. And that's going to remove the top and bottom. And now I can paint those. So see, there's always like a quick, clever way to get these selections done. If you ever find yourself like picking through the model, piece by piece, you're doing it wrong. Try to think of like a more clever way to do it. You know, there's always, when I was teaching SketchUp a lot, I'd always say that there's like the quick way, or there's a slow way, or the obvious way, the quick way, and then the, oh my God, how did you do that in like, 2 clicks way? And that's what we're getting at here. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to grab a cup of coffee. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. It's kind of late getting started today, and I hadn't had enough coffee. Okay, back to this. We're getting somewhere. So now I need to break up these surfaces on here, where, like, because what I want to do is paint the, soffits with that trim color. So what I don't want to do, this would be the, like kind of the obvious way, is to go around and like trace all this stuff, to get those lines to show up so that I can break the different surfaces and paint. All right, but we're not going to do that. We can be more clever, right? Because all those lines already, they should kind of exist in here. I wonder if... this would be, I wonder if we could use the, Sketch UV and this selection tool, to kind of go around and grab these different pieces, that would be one way to do it. Here's another way. I wonder if we could like intersect faces with model. That might be an okay way to get this done. So we created some extra geometry there, and there. Yeah, and this is where, so that got us, pretty close. And I would say that, like, honestly, I know for sure I'm not doing anything down there or down there. So why bother modeling it? And, now you can just paint those faces like that. And what this is going to do is maintain our ceiling. Let's get our tags, our ceiling, all elements on. So now we have our ceilings are still, not painted, and the underside of that roof is not painted. So that's kind of ideal. All right, so again, a couple concepts we're brushing up against here. One is with the having additive versus subtractive modeling approaches, where is it easier to kind of select everything and then deselect a few pieces, or is it easier to select it one by one? That, and then let's see what else we got. What's going on here? I guess this is just a part of the model that I hadn't messed with. And I forget what I was going to say. I had something more profound than that. I had another concept we were brushing up against, and I forgot. It'll come back to me. All right, so this will scoot over there, and we'll probably do that same move here, where this piece needs to move straight up like that, and then double click, group and delete. Steven, that one was for you. Like this, and then we're going to draw this in. I can this would be there's a million different inferences here. You can tap down to lock that inference, hover on this edge to kind of project to that intersection. I can push pull this guy back to here, and then hide rest to model. This, I believe, we just need to push pull up like that, and then clean that stuff up. Same deal, hide, get rid of any of these extra edges that we don't want to see, because they will find their way into your drawings like that. All right. Okay, so the other concept that we're bumping up against, it was additive or subtractive, and then also modeling what you need. Like, I think it's easy to get going when you're building a SketchUp model and it's fun and you start like working on something that you don't really need. Well, in this case, like this view that I'm looking at, we'll go back to camera 2. You know, this view here, this is where all the work is going to be done. So there is no reason for me to be working on the front side of the house. You know, my contract has nothing to do with this. And it's nice to have the model just in case something comes up, if they do want me to do some work out front, but in general, just work on like the area that you are going to be presenting. And this is it for us, is this back corner. And I just want to be able to see that this is going to render properly. I think we will get into some Lumion rendering eventually here. All right. Of course, saving as I go. I actually had a mishap this week where I lost some work. It hasn't happened to me in a long time. It wasn't a lot of work, but somehow I like opened a file and didn't save. It was very strange, very uncharacteristic of me, losing like 10 minutes of work. I was very upset about it. So save as you go. And yeah, I mean, let's look at the inside of this. So our interior, and then we can freeze that tag. So we're in our existing conditions model, and what we're looking to do is to nudge this onto the proposed conditions. But we want to get like as much done as we can, because your proposed conditions is, you know, duplicating your existing conditions. So I think I'm pretty okay. Like when it comes to the existing conditions, I think we're gonna be in pretty decent shape here. I would probably like, you know, raise these up. So like, you know, project my grid line. Okay, we're good there. I would just use my move tool and move all those up like that. And then Control E. And let's build in our patio here. And if I do like all elements on, this is the old patio. All right. So to get, you know, to kind of properly plot that point, I could just like draw a rectangle here and then group it and then hop in there. When it's selected, I can just hit enter. I'm just going to make it 6 inches, and this distance right here is 4'1". And as I pull it out, you know, I'm going to call it like, let's do 10 feet, 11 inches like that. So this way, my dimension from here to here is a clean 15 feet. And that looks right about where it is. You know, I didn't scan it. And I also didn't measure it. So, you know, I think we're demolishing that whole thing. I'm sorry, we are demolishing that whole thing. And now this dimension right here to kind of step up is like a clean 6. That's cool. So I think we're in good shape. That looks all right. And this is where, you know, we did set like this site. This is our accurate site. I wonder if like, I wonder what that deck does when I look at that. It does kind of like, I mean, it sits up, but it probably doesn't sit up quite as much as what I'm showing here. What we got ADP calling me, trying to sell me payroll services. Let's pull this down like another 6 inches and see if that, you know, that gets us pretty darn close. And, you know, at this point, I guess what you could consider doing would be just mounding this up just a little bit just to make it look right. For this, I'm going to use, but instead we're just going to leave it as is. I think we're good there. I'm gonna go back to our brick cladding and siding. This is one texture that's okay. I'm gonna paint this, and you can see that it's like this kind of weathered wood that runs up against the house like that, so we're good. I'm gonna edit this, desaturate a bit, and maybe it needs to be a little bit bigger, so like 5 feet like that. Well, it's close, so good enough for right now. And then I'm gonna jump in here, and it just has like that rim board around there. I might go to texture, position, right click, rotate 90, and that's probably fine. I think this is truly how I would work, is like I wouldn't get hung up on like perfect materials in the existing conditions model, because one, I just don't feel like doing it right now. I just kind of want to make it look right. And two, when it, I wouldn't really need to even address that until, I guess you can do it whenever you want, but when I wouldn't really mess with it until I'm like in Lumion and really drilling in on that. So that's my preference, is just to kind of throw some stuff together in SketchUp, and then when it comes time to render, I would go back and really dial those in. I really, something I should do is, I've talked about it over and over, is like just building out a better base library of my SketchUp materials. When I go to like open or create a collection, I do have a collection under Brightman Designs resources, and then we have our materials, and I can select that folder, and then I can like add it to favorites like that. And then I organize my textures, my materials, the same way that Lumion, at least they used to. I forget if they might have added a few categories and things, but I always thought it was decent, indoor, outdoor, and nature. So these are pretty decent categories. And if I'm thinking in terms of this organization inside of SketchUp, and it aligns with the way they organize inside of Lumion, that's kind of nice. All right. So this here, let's tag this as, everything's level 1. So level 1, floors, exterior, existing. All this stuff should be existing like that. If I turn all my elements off, like what is left over? So that's a good way to see like what hasn't been tagged. So these are like level 1, level 1 walls, interior, existing. This is going to be level 1 columns, exterior, existing. And these are level 1 windows, exterior, existing, and this is a level 1 doors, exterior, existing, like that. Now I can hit reset, and everything is tagged. I mean, I don't mean to brag, but that's pretty slick to be able to tag like that. I'm telling you, these ConDoc tags are infinitely faster than the SketchUp way of doing things, of like nested groups, groups within groups within groups, and then you're like screwing around in here, like hitting this drop down, trying to find the tag. It is so much faster to just select this and be able to tag it and untag it. Level 1 roof, exterior, existing. And then the ability to like select a bunch of stuff and hit it with a tag, really powerful. All right, so I'll go to file save. I think we're in pretty good shape as far as our proposed condition, or I'm sorry, existing conditions are concerned. And time-wise, I'm getting a little bit soft on this. I might cut it at an hour, but and if there's any questions, definitely, as I kind of wind down, we've got like another 15 minutes here. Definitely, if there's something pressing, throw it in the chat panel. But I think what I'm going to do now is export our proposed conditions out of layout, and then import those proposed conditions into SketchUp, and then just kind of get things set up so that next week all we have to do is open this file and start jamming away on proposed conditions. So let's take a look at that. All right, so inside of layout, as mentioned, this is the file that we created. And we got a question here from Sheik. Do you know why this CAD and 3D softwares are single threaded? I don't know the answer to that, but my guess is that they were built at a time when there wasn't all the multi-threading. I vaguely remember some conversations about how it would just be a huge rewrite to leverage multi-threading. But yeah, that I don't know. I'm not sure why they do that. I have a feeling it relates to that these evolved over time. Multi-threading technology came out, and it would be a full rebuild to leverage it. But don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% positive. This is a job for ChatGPT. Let's see. I'm just going to take your question. Can I copy this? And then let's hop into ChatGPT, and I'll get you guys that screen here. And then let's just say, see, what I should have done is ask the question off the screen, and then I could have just read this back to you. So the reason, I don't know if I need to read it. I mean, you guys can see it. Real-time interaction. This is my answer. Legacy code bases, I'm guessing. Yeah. So I gotta say, ChatGPT is, it's so much more useful than the traditional Google search. And Google has their own thing going on with AI, but I guess it's not always. Let's just throw this into Google and see what they come up with. So some CAD, because of calculations, yep. A cut cannot be counted into the boss feature. Did they come up with anything? So my opinion of what we just saw here between these two answers, I think Google's got some work to do to catch up. I mean, ChatGPT has a much better explanation right off the rip here, in my opinion. And so like your traditional Google search, while, of course it's always going to be around and needed, but man, what a nicer presentation. And also like the app on the phone has a pretty nice conversational interface, which seems to work pretty well, although this is something I'd prefer to read, and because you need to kind of study it and scan it. So anyway, that solves that mystery. Yeah, Google, it seems like they're not so great. Copilot. So if you've had I don't have any experience with Copilot AI, or I think that's what you mean. But yeah, I just kind of got started with ChatGPT, and it's really, really impressive. It's just done everything I needed to do, so I kind of stuck with it. Haven't had a lot of time to experiment with anything else. Anyway, good question. That's kind of news to me, but yeah, I think probably the short answer is just these programs were built when multi-threading wasn't a thing. All right, so back to our task at hand here. I'm just gonna go with, I'm gonna use the drawing that we created, and we'll eventually get to the reality of it, but I think this is like good enough to kind of get things going. And so I'll hit File, Export PDF, and we're going to kick this out to our project files, exports, and this is going to be let me open this, open with Adobe Acrobat. So these are the existing conditions. I mean, typically what I would do is like, this was done on 9/19. So inside of my exports folder, I would say I have like 240919 like that. And, this would be just a record of it. And then today being the 17th, I would do a new folder 241017, enter like that, hop into that folder, and then I would export my existing conditions again. And we're going to export all the pages. That's fine. This is actually proposed conditions. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. So really I would do like, and conditions, I kind of stopped leaving that in. It's just proposed. Like that. And then really the only page we need is going to be page 3. And whenever I export PDFs, I do use the JPEG compression, and I always want to see it. And I never create PDF layers from layout layers. They don't really mean anything outside of layout. All right, so now here is our export. Okay, so now we are going to import this sketch. It's essentially a sketch that's been tightened up, right? So I guess just to reiterate, this is our proposed conditions drawing, and we base that on our let's get rid of our dashed lines. So we used our existing conditions, printed it out, and then made some sketches with trace paper, and then imported that, scaled it, and then tightened it up with layout in our ConDoc 2D scrapbooks, creating these scale drawings in layout. And the reason we did that is because it's so much faster to make decisions on the fly, to just sort out the plan, infinitely faster than like drawing this in 3D and having to model everything in 3D to net a clean plan like this. So now we've exported this PDF, and there it is. And now what we're going to do is import the PDF, and we're going to go to Content, BD Live, 07, Project Files, Exports. Here's our exports from today. And then here is our Wagon Trail Road proposed. And keep in mind that on a PC, you are not able to import a PDF. I've installed my friend John Brock's PDF importer, and that is available at estimatorforsketchup.com and then /PDF importer. Super cool plugin, super useful. One of those things that just seems to come up all the time for me. So that's how you get these PDFs to show up. If you're on a Mac and you're importing a PDF, you do have that ability on a Mac, but it rasterizes it. So I'll show you what that's all about. Options, yeah, that's fine. Import. Now I can select just the drawing like this. Let's get our title block out of there. And then our scale is going to be at 1/4 inch like that. All right, so we set the scale, import the PDF, and then that's probably going to come in like, I think it comes in at the origin is the idea, which we're not seeing there even. We can like reset. That's the origin, and then I'll invert my selection, hide. Let's just select this and move it up like this. Okay, so there we go. So there's our import. So you can see that we went from, and we might have an issue here. That's okay. I'm getting kind of a confusing drawing because my dashed lines in layout are showing up as solid lines here. And the truth is I don't even need them to show up. So let's do this. Let's delete that. Let's hop back into layout over here. And on this, this is our proposed conditions. Let me see. Proposed. I got to change that. All right. So on this drawing, before I export, I'm going to turn off my dashed lines because that's what was showing up and making that kind of confusing. So export PDF, and then let's, all the settings should be exactly the same, and we'll overwrite. Here's that without the dashed lines, and then we'll go to File, Import, and we'll pull that in, do the same drill here where, yeah, looks pretty decent to me. 1/4 inch, import PDF, and then that's gonna show up right on the bottom there. And then we'll use the move tool and then jump in there and take a look. See, now we've got this nice, clean, proposed conditions CAD file. And this is a question I have, like when I measure this, see, now that's slick. Like, it's coming in, you can see that because I typed in like precise dimensions in layout, and I was like slightly careful, I remember talking about this at one point, saying that, you don't have to be absolute precision, but if you do type in those dimensions, it makes it easy. You can start to snap to things. So you can see where a little bit of effort along the way starts to pay off, because now we have like a clean CAD drawing inside of SketchUp that we can like snap to. All right, so back out of here, and now what I need to do, and that's funny, I brought this in on when I had reset our axes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to delete, reset. We're going to import this one more time like this and like this, and import. And this way it's going to come in. No, it's coming in aligned with the axis. Interesting. Well, that might be a feature, a small feature request to bring this in oriented with the current sketching context. But honestly, it's not a big deal. Watch this. I just, freeze this. I know that like this drawing, I'm gonna scoot it so we can kind of see, like this corner right here is this corner right here. So I would just, move this from here to, I'll just put it like right here. And then I'm going to tap the, rotate, tap the up arrow key, and then we're going to rotate about this point, and then I'm going to like snap it like that. I think I goofed something up here. No, we're good. Yeah, it comes out. Yep. So now I would probably just, place this like on the floor. This is going to be level 1. It's going to be a background. So any sketch that you bring in is a background. Technically, it's interior and exterior. In version 5.2, we introduced multi-location tagging. So you can hit it with both interior and exterior, and it changes the logic. And as far as new, existing, or demolished, I don't know. It really doesn't matter. I guess you could call it new, but yeah, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't. This is like a sketch, like I said. So, all right. So now we can like, let's see. If I select it, it makes it kind of easier to understand and see. And so it's sitting below. So let's like move it up by, I think it was like 6 inches. And that way we'll be able to see it, on the floor. So now you're starting to understand like where this thing sits and how this design is going to come together. Yeah, that's cool. Pretty slick, right? I mean, this is I don't know. I guess, of course, I think it's pretty slick. I just think this is a really good way to design. It's like flexing each of these different tools. They're flexing their strengths, using them with the right amount of detail at the right time in the process. That's what I've really realized as I've like fine-tuning my presentation for Basecamp, where I'll be talking about this whole process. It's a realization that like, it's applying the right amount of detail at the right stage of design. If you build the full-on SketchUp model and then try to like, model your proposed conditions without that buy-in from the client, you can just get yourself in trouble when it comes to getting the right fee and all that. Burning your time on something that, you're not getting paid to do, or it doesn't even matter, you know. So anyways, that brings us right to 11:02. I think that was an okay session for today. I appreciate you guys being in here, and yeah, hopefully this is helpful. Throw me a comment. I'll hang for maybe just a moment on the chat, but really I think we're in good shape. Looks like no other questions have come through. So yeah, look forward to seeing you guys next week, and we'll talk soon.